Development Officer. He's going to be facilitating our panel discussion. Hey, Brian, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. Can you give me a visual? Let me know I'm being heard.
Yep, I can see you and I can hear you clearly. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw it over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Mary Beth. Hey, everyone, thanks for being on today's call. We really appreciate it. Wow, this is the 20th day of Celebrate 21. And like we were saying earlier, be sure to join us on Monday for the masterminds. There's going to be some great sessions, 2 different masterminds, one on taking listings and one on getting more referrals. So join us for that on Monday. I am really excited about this panel today. This is a great way to end my week, and I hope it's a great way to end yours too. So it's a great deal of pleasure for me to have these 2 gentlemen join us. And I'll apologize in advance. We're having just a little bit of technical difficulty getting one of them on. So I'm going to, oh, great. It seems like he's getting on just in the nick of time. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Kevin Mills, who is on. Kevin, if you want to turn your camera and your mic on for us. There it is. How are you, sir?
Doing well.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm doing great, buddy, and thanks for doing this for us. We really appreciate it. So everybody in the audience, let me introduce him. If you haven't yet met Kevin, Kevin Mills is the #1 agent in Century 21, out of Century 21 Barefoot Realty, part of the Century 21, the Harrelson Group in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And also joining us, if you want to join us on camera as well, is Kyle Siebert, who is the #1 agent on the Real Trends Top 1000. Every year, Real Trends does the Top 1000 with Wall Street Journal. Kyle was named #1 in 2019. And if I know him, he'll be #1 again in 2020. And that's across all companies. So Kyle's out of Century 21, the Siebert team in Seekonk, Massachusetts, Providence, Rhode Island area. Kyle, thanks so much for being on. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, so gents, #1 agent in Century 21, #1 agent in the country. What does it take to do that? Give everybody a sense of your business in 2020. How'd you do, and what does 21 look like for you in terms of your goals?
Kevin, you can lead off. Or I'll go. Yeah, I'll go. So,
please.
Look, at the end of the day, it really comes down to sacrifice. It comes down to sacrificing a lot of things to become, to get to that top level and to get to that level that's, at the upper echelon of our field. But it's hard work, it's sacrifice, it's follow-up, it's the ability to understand and work with buyers, sellers, anyone and everyone that's looking to do anything regarding real estate, and continue to hold yourself in a professional manner so that, when folks in my area think real estate, they think of me, and there's really no one else that they, hopefully think of unless they have a relative, family friend, or whatever that's already in the business. So really a lot of hard work, dedication, and really investment in the business, on the business, and through the business as time goes on.
And Kyle, last year you did, I think it was 517 transactions, something like that.
Yep.
What's the goal this year in 2021?
So this year, between 550 and 600. That's a function of a lack thereof supply. If I had more supply, I could do more than that. It's just a function of having buyers that continue to stay in the queue that normally I'd be able to cycle through faster. But what happens is when you can't get properties and you put 15, 20, 30 offers in, it ends up being a situation where at the end of the day, the buyers aren't the buyers aren't getting under agreement. So you just have, it's a pile-on effect, and the pile-on effect makes it a lot harder for you to navigate through and to be able to put so many transactions together.
And when it comes to your business, it's about 500 transactions. Give us a sense, roughly, what percentage sellers, what percentage buyers?
So we're 60 sellers, 40 buyers. That's been pretty consistent. It's been pretty consistent year in and year out. And I think this just happens after year 5 when a lot of my buyers became sellers. We marketed to them pretty hardcore on the seller side, but then the buyers became sellers as well. And then it just became a ripple down effect where you just had more listings than buyers. But again, buyers take up more time, so it's easier to put sellers under agreement than buyers. but it's harder to get set to get listings. So it's kind of a catch-22.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Kevin, how about you? So 2020 and 2021, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so 2020, I think I ended with 252 transactions, 251 transactions. For me, the major bulk were listings. So I had one guy who bought a few properties from me, but I'm about 98%, 99% listing, 1% buyers. If that, I try to stay away from that game. I try to just stay in my lane and focus in on what I think that I'm best at, and that's listing properties, marketing for my sellers, and getting them sold. This year, we'll see. It's all about inventory, right? So I don't like to look too far down the road. I'm trying to play like hungry hippos. I'm trying to get as many listings as I can. So every day I'm going after it and just trying to get as many as I can. Hopefully I'll be able to replicate or get closer to that 300 number. Off the start of the year, I think I'm on pace to do like 310, but my inventory is really strength. So I just got to keep getting that inventory back up and stoked. I mean, I'm having a blast so far this year.
You know, in all of our conversations, I've never asked you how many phone calls you must get per week from agents volunteering to be your buyer referral agent there in Myrtle Beach.
I get quite a few. And I'm happy to get, if they're here locally and they're willing to commit, I'll give them the buyer referrals. I'm happy to.
Well, there you go, folks. All right, so let's stick with you. Let's talk about your best prospecting, because before we get into language, so today's conversation is all about, by the way, language and communication. But before we get into that, let's talk first about lead sources. So what's your best sources for seller leads?
Yeah, so right now I'm calling a lot of old expireds. With the market as hot as it is, a lot of people who were on the market 12 months ago, their price was too high then, and now it's not. I mean, it all comes down to price at the end of the day. So old expireds is a really good lead gen that I have. Past clients is really big. I'm hitting them back up, just letting them know where the market is, if they have any other properties down there, if they have any friends, they have any families, if maybe they're looking to buy it, that's a good one. My database is a pretty hard hit, and I'm known for being a prospector. So for me, I hit the phones every day. So expireds, withdrawals. I don't do as many for sell by owners, but for sell by owners are really good right now. It's just mastering that conversation of what your value is in a hot market to a for sell by owner, and what your value is in the market to somebody who just came off the market and failed to sell with their last agent. So it's a great subject to be on as far as conversations. And I'm happy to share as much as I can on what my conversations look like and sound like with each of the different pillars that I'm calling and communicating with.
Yeah, you know, I'm curious about your approach with the past expireds, right? Because a lot of folks would think, you know, usually an expired is getting 20,000 phone calls that very morning by 8:05 a.m.
Yeah.
And then not a lot of agents think to go back to them sometimes. So first off, how far back are you going, and what's that initial dialogue sound like? What's the opener there?
All the way back to 2015. So, I mean, if they failed to sell since 2015 and they still own that property, then I'm going back to it. And just hitting their motivation. I mean, it's just calling saying, hey, it's Kevin Mills of Century 21 Barefoot Realty. Just wanted to give you a quick call. I wanted to touch base on your property. I think you still own 215 XYZ Street, right? Yeah, we still own it. Well, I know it was on the market years ago. Obviously, the market's really improved. We're seeing a lot of your neighbors going under contract right now. And I just wanted to check in to see if the offer made sense, if the market was hot enough now. Is it something that you would entertain selling? And just seeing where that conversation went. No, it's not. Okay, well, where were you going when you had it on the market previous? I mean, you could really go down that rabbit hole. And we talked about this in just previous conversations, but for me, I always try to go at least 3 layers deep. I had one goal at one point where I had the 8 pennies on my desk, like you know about, and I'd ask 8 questions on every single phone call. So it's always just trying to take that conversation deeper and deeper and deeper until you really get to the root of the motivation, or really see what would have to happen for that person to consider selling their property. And then I always reach out for the referrals. Well, who do you know? Do you have any friends, any family? And then at the end, I always try to get the email address and the best sell. So now they're in my database and I can start my drip campaign on them. So if nothing else, I'm going for the listing, obviously. If I can't get the listing, I'm going for a referral. If I can't get the referral, I'm going for the database. So on every phone call, there's a purpose that I have on each one, and it's advancing the ball slowly forward. So, I mean, last year when COVID hit, when people were really struggling to get listings, I really maintained because of this database I've built over time with these people. So that database ends up saving you when the market either goes sky high and it becomes hard, or when the market dips and becomes really low. That database is like old reliable.
Yeah, it's a farm you can always count on.
Yep.
All right, thanks. Kyle, how about you? What's your top source for your seller leads?
So a lot of my seller leads, I would say I source out in many different ways. So number one, definitely I have a virtual assistant that calls old expires. We go back to 2016. We don't go back that far, but I'm going to tell them now to go back to 15. We have we do a lot. We've done Bold Leads, which does seller lead stuff for us. We've done a lot of seller landing pages on Facebook and social media. We do mailers. We do a lot of mailers that are targeted at specific zip codes. I work with a lot of investors, and I work with a lot of investors that buy and flip and buy and hold and repurpose their portfolios on a regular basis. So it's a function of past clients, like Kevin mentioned. Your database is gold, your database is key. I work with a ton of clients that refer me business all the time. Just today alone, I probably got one or two that were referrals of people that bought from me in the past that are now looking to sell. I also work a lot with social media and really adding value to my past clients, adding value to the general public, and explaining the market we're in, how I can help you get the most money, the most efficient way as possible, and make it as seamless as possible as I possibly can. So really just work on all those different avenues and continue to generate as much listings as possible.
Now, I know both of you are very focused on communication and language in your business. And what's unique about this conversation is that I think you two both take a similar but yet different approach. So, Kyle, I want to stick with you for just a second. When was was there a moment where you first realized just how important language and communication was in your business?
I mean, communication has been important since day one. I mean, since the first client that I've worked with, I realized that if I don't communicate well, number one, I don't differentiate myself with any other agents in the area. But number two, I lose the ability to generate referrals in the future because that experience with the client wasn't superb. And if I perform at a level that's not superb, I'm not going to expect to get referrals that can come in. So communication with agents, communications with clients, with lenders, with lawyers, with everyone across the board is important. And some of the best deals I've had, I've really put a lot of effort into communicating. And some of the worst deals I've had, I've stepped back and I've allowed my administrative staff to take more of the reins. And you can see the difference. And I really see it when the referrals come from which deal, right? I can tell, okay, that deal provided me with 3 or 4 referrals, but yes, because I put all hands on deck. This deal I really didn't get anything from because I really didn't pay too much attention. So communication is important and is integral, but at the end of the day, again, whether it's your first deal or your millionth deal, it's really you're only as good as your last deal. And I try to pride myself on providing a very high level of communication and open communication with all my clients.
And where did you learn your communication, your scripts? Where did you pick that up?
So my background was in corporate America, which I definitely learned the proper way to communicate on a professional level. I did 10 years in Boston, Massachusetts on the corporate space. Definitely learned the in and outs of emails and phone calls and how to communicate in that fashion. But a lot of it just came from inside of me. I just have a mentality of understanding what the client feels. If I were the client in this position, what does it feel like? What do I want it to feel like? And how can I make it feel better? So I've always taken an approach of putting myself in the client's shoes. And even with my staff, I ask when we make mistakes as a staff, I say, guys, if you were the client, how would you feel? And that's when they just stop and the light goes on. They're like, he's right. This is bigger than doing a paperwork, doing some forms, putting a contract together. This is a very important process in someone's life. And at the end of the day, that communication either can be really good and make the deal or be really bad and break the deal. And just because you close it doesn't mean it was worthwhile. You can close a lot of bad deals, and that can result in a lot of bad reviews and a lot of bad word of mouth advertising, which is worse than anything you can possibly do.
Yeah. And Kevin, how about you? So what was there a moment where you realized, oh man, I got to step up my game with communication, and what was that?
Yeah, I mean, probably the first is the first time I ever talked to a girl when I was like 7 years old. I realized I had to be a good communicator. Probably where it all started. But when it comes down to real estate, I mean, I knew from the start that you had to establish a good relationship and establish good rapport. I'm lucky to be in a really good Century 21 office with a really good owner. So from the first day in the environment I was put into, I understood before I could even sell real estate, I had to master the conversation. So I started really early on with some pretty deep things. So learning the different personality types and how to mimic and match, and really how to use different inflections in my voice for different phrasing that I want to do, how to lead people in conversations. And from the start, I think I got pretty deep into it because I realized it's a great technique to be able to influence and persuade, and also a great way to be able to stand out above your competition. Like if I talk to somebody who's super driven and a driver type personality, and I'm talking very laid back, I'm not going to click very well with that person. So I just learned how to mirror and match very well. I got into some NLP training, which has been really useful for me in every area of life. And I can tell you, I mean, everything we do as people is communication, right? I mean, my communication skills in real estate have helped me with my children and helped me with my wife. So I think that's just probably the biggest skill that we have to work on, other than just being disciplined in what our schedules are, is being a skilled communicator.
Yeah, and you mentioned your broker. Those of you familiar with Greg Harrelson from Mind Over Market that we do every Friday at noon, that's Kevin's broker. So you can imagine those of you who are regular viewers of Greg on Mind Over Market, where he learned that. And Greg himself was a Mike Ferry coach for years and a big proponent of Mike's system. And I know that's part of what your learning has been as well. You mentioned NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. Any good resources you'd recommend on that?
I forgot the guy's name who does it. So I can search it, and I'm happy to send it to you if you want to blast it out to everybody who's kind of in attendance, if you have anything like that. Man, I'm just trying to remember his name right now, and I can't remember who that NLP guy is, but I got all these CDs. Matthew Ferry was a big one from the start. He's Mike Ferry's son. And I listened to a bunch of his CDs really early on, and that really helped. But I think from the very beginning, not to overthink it, just try to mirror and match and try to ask more questions. Too many of us, and even me at times, get in the position, I have a huge sign on my desk that says, ask more questions. Because I start talking and talking and talking, and before I know it, I've talked for 3 minutes, and I don't even know what this other person's thinking. I mean, they can be eating a burger for all I know and not even paying attention to me. So for me, it's asking multiple questions. It's really diving in and really going a lot deeper. So you're able to hit the things the other agents that you might be competing with aren't even going to get to. They're going to stop after the first question. So I'd start with that.
And are there activities that you do even today, regular activities to stay kind of in skilled at your communication game?
Yeah, so I will do some role play with agents in my office. I'll definitely role play with my assistant on a daily basis, just different scenarios, just to kind of keep my mind fresh. I tell you, all it is for me is having a really good mindset coming into the day. So I'm really big into priming. If you guys, anybody out there is a Tony Robbins fan, he does priming every day. I try to get that in every morning just to get my mind clear. And then it's when I'm making the phone calls and having the conversations, I'm not messing around with this thing right here. And I'm not messing around with my computer. I'm 100% engaged in that conversation. So many times I'm trying to do all these multiple things. I don't even know where the conversation's going. But I think more than anything, it's being a great listener. And the way I figured out if I was really truly listening to a prospect versus when I wasn't listening is if I could say every word they said back in my head, then I was really listening. So while you're talking, I'll be repeating every word you said in my head, just to make sure that I'm very focused and I'm listening very well with you. So that's one thing I do for all my clients and all my prospects, is just make sure that I'm really focused in on what you're saying. And then once you get a step deeper, it's how you're saying it.
And for those not familiar with priming, do you want to kind of share your ritual?
Yeah, so I mean, mine's pretty simple. You go to youtube.com, type in Tony Robbins priming. It's like a 7-minute video. There's a few of them, and for me, it's a bunch of deep breaths to get started, and then it's like a focused visualization. And the first thing is to focus something you're grateful on. I feel like if anybody's ever seen the Hook movie, which is like an old Peter Pan movie, remember Peter Pan just had to think about one happy thought. I have one happy thought I go to every single day. And that thought just makes me so grateful and so happy. So I think about that, and then it's visualizing your goals. So visualizing in 12 months what you're going to look like physically, spiritually, relationships, as a business person, and then it just really clears your head, makes you feel grateful, and you're ready to start your day. So much one bad thing can happen, and we let it ruin a day. So for me, every time that happens, I try to refocus myself and reprime myself, so I'm back in a fresh, new, good mentality, trying to help somebody, and not just out there trying to get another listing for the sake of getting another listing.
Man, it's so true. You hear about professional athletes being so almost superstitious about their pre-game warm-up, and it's part of the way that they put themselves in game mode. And I think we as real estate agents have to do the same thing. You got to put yourself in game mode every day, especially when you're about to be in front of clients or on the phone with them.
Yeah, I joined a group that me and you talked about the other day of a bunch of guys that are high net worth, and they're trying to do big things in this world. And it's been really impactful for me so far. And they said 100 years ago, people weren't showering. They weren't even brushing their teeth every day. You know what I mean? And we look back on them now and we're like, oh my gosh, how are they not brushing their teeth every day or twice a day? How are they not showering once or twice a day? He said he believes, one guy I was talking to said he believes in 100 years, they're going to say, how can they go through their day without sharpening their mind? How can they go through their day without really, really exercising their mind and clearing their mind and focusing on their mental toughness and kind of their mentality? And I believe that to be true. So many of the time, we don't even think about where our headspace is mentally, and we can go days without kind of refocusing that in. But just refocusing on my goals, refocusing on my vision is something I love. I mean, I have my goals by my desk every single day. I look at them every single day to make sure I'm kind of in line.
That's awesome. And Kyle, how about you? Any regular activities you're doing these days to keep sharp at your communication skills?
Yeah, so I stay relevant. I stay relevant. I stay active. I make sure that I'm meditating in the morning. I make sure that I'm at the end of the day, when I feel like I'm getting to a point where I hate people, and I say that kiddingly, but I'm being serious. I have to step back and remind myself why we're doing what we're doing and why the questions are coming. So if I can just get the why behind it, it puts me in a much better place. So at the end of the day, I think just really staying on top of your game, continuing to talk to and meet with new people. I do a lot of inorganic and organic lead gen. And what inorganic lead gen does, obviously that means I'm paying for leads. What that does is it keeps you on my toes because I'm always meeting new people, right? So the hardest thing to sell is yourself against someone that you don't know. So when you don't know someone, right, you have to go out there and really sell yourself even stronger in the sense that you add value, that you're credible, that you can be reliable, that you're someone that can be, the person to help them buy or sell whatever they're looking to do within real estate. So at the end of the day, I think that's been a big help for me to stay relevant in that space and to make sure that I'm very, very active in the community, in the real estate game, and making sure that, I'm providing value, whether it's in person, on social media, or any which way possible.
You talk about online leads, and certainly that's one of them, but pretty much any sort of lead conversion is about speed to lead. So, when you're doing 500 transactions a year, how are you making sure that you've got that speed to lead? What systems are you using? What tools are you using?
I'm automating as much as I can, in the sense that I really try to, that initial, I look at it as a funnel, right? So that initial contact and engagement is done via automation, and that it's that automation that allows me to then figure out when the person engages, and then it's a foot race to the phone, right? So you really would have to at this point. There's nothing more important during a workday than a new lead. At the end of the day, the pipeline, the pending, the people I'm showing a house to right now, those are already leads that I've already converted, right? That's already converted. So now it's just sustaining that. But it's the new lead that keeps the business going. And if we're not focused on that momentum and that continuation of growing our business and doing more transactions and really helping more people, we're going to get stuck in a situation where we focus on the pipeline and we wake up one day and now there's no new prospects. So it's avoiding that stagnancy, that complacency that can happen.
And you mentioned automation. What, any particular tools that you like in terms of using to get speed to lead?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of tools out there, drip campaigns and tools. I think you find the one that works best for you and not try to reinvent the wheel and try to make things too difficult. It's a function of manufacturing a conversation. How do you manufacture a conversation? You instantaneously respond. You respond with something, hey, hi, whatever that is. You need to get a response back, letting them know that they're interested in raising their hand to buy or sell real estate.
And Kevin, how about you? Speed to lead. How do you maintain that in your business? I mean,
Yeah, so a
250
few different
plus
ways.
deals a
Anything
year.
on automation that we're kind of shooting out, text messages or whatever they might be. I'm in the office and my time is blocked 8 to 11 every day. So I'm available 8 to 11 whenever somebody reaches out. I'm in there making phone calls and doing everything I have to do on the outbound end, but 8 to 11, it's all on me. And I'm sitting right in front of the computer so I can see when a new whatever comes in, whether it be a text message or email or phone call or voicemail. It forwards straight to me and I'm able to take care of it immediately. Thankfully, my staff and my assistant, she just kind of filters it out and throws me the important things I need to do immediately. For the rest of the day, it's on her. So from 11 o'clock till she leaves at 5 o'clock, then if something comes through that's really important, then she's going to give the first message and then forward it to me. And then after she sends, and she'll continue the automation until I take over. So if somebody says, yeah, we might be interested, she'll continue that dialogue until I can step in. So we have a really good communication strategy there. And phone call, she checks my voicemails, texts, they're all on me, but she'll handle those if I need her to. So I think it's just good teamwork with my staff on that end. If you don't have an assistant, you are an assistant. So it's something on this side where I highly recommend getting one whenever you're able to in your business, because you can really leverage them and help them and give them a great experience too. I mean, I can tell you that we have a great relationship and I wouldn't change it.
Awesome. So when you talk about the communicating to the different buckets of people, so let's stick with you, Kevin, for just a second. You talked about some of the different sources that you use, the Prospecting Expired versus your Sphere and other folks that you go after leads from. How does your communication change? Can you give me some examples of some things that you're communicating to one bucket versus another?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if it's a new expired or a new withdrawn or really an old expired or old withdrawn, I mean, my intention from the start is to get the listing immediately. That's the first thing I want to do is I want to get the listing. If I can get it over the phone or if I can do it right then and send it to them via email and them sign it and we get it back active, then that's great. So, I mean, my intention from the start is saying, hey, what's your motivation? Hey, would you still consider selling this property? What's your motivation? I can kind of do my research there. I'll set an appointment if I need to. But if I don't need to, I'll just go ahead and try to send out listing paperwork at a better price and just share with them kind of my value proposition, what I'm bringing to the table, what my guarantees are. And I've just started doing that again recently on every phone call I kind of get off of that I know I'm going to be competing with other agents on, which is basically every phone call I'm on. I end it with saying my value proposition. Hey, here's what I'm committed to. If you go with me, I'm committed to being there for you throughout the entire transaction until closing. I'm committed to being honest with you by making sure that I'm representing you the best that I can, by being in full communication with you. And I'll vary that just based on what they want. So if I ask them during the conversation, hey, what's most important about the next agent that you choose? And they say, well, we really want somebody who's going to be available on weekends to talk to us, because that's the only time we're available. Hey, listen, my value proposition is I'm going to be available for you on weekends. I can't guarantee I'm going to be around 24/7, but I guarantee if you reach out to me, then I'm going to get back with you that day, or I'm going to get back with you within a couple hours. So I try to always structure what they want in my value proposition as well. And that goes a long way. Whereas if it's a COI or a past client, it's more of just a catch-up conversation. You got to be careful on those that you just don't go in and ask for the business, or it could sound a little bit off. I mean, you got to be genuine. So it's definitely a slower paced conversation. I allot a lot more time for those, but it's just kind of catching up. They usually bring up, well, how's real estate at some point, because it's me. And I say, yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, I just didn't know if you've given any thoughts of even doing anything while we're on it. And then it's okay. Well, who do you know? Do you know of anybody who might be doing something? It's just kind of staying fresh in their heads. Maybe even telling them about a local event. Hey, I went to this great steakhouse that just opened up down the road. Have you been there? man, it's incredible. Or wherever they're from. I have notes in my files on my past clients, like, oh, how's Pennsylvania right now? How's Pittsburgh? So I think that's more of a slower conversation. If it's just cold database lead follow-up, then it's just updating them on the market stats in the neighborhood. So with each one, I think it's a different pace, but with each person, and I'm probably talking about this more than most, it's a completely different conversation. I could talk to 2 expireds in a row, and one's an amiable amiable woman who is just got divorced. I just had one this morning, just got divorced, amiable, scared, not sure what to do, has never gone through the process. That conversation is completely different than the next expired who's real pissed off at his agent and getting heard from him in 3 months. So it's knowing, understanding, recognizing that, and then changing yourself and kind of being a chameleon to match kind of what they're going through, and so you can best serve them.
So I got to ask you the 8 pennies, right? So you mentioned this earlier. So each phone call, you want to talk about the 8 pennies, how you did that?
So I mean, I got to the point on my phone calls when I was cold calling that they were moving too fast. So I mean, I wasn't getting the information needed. So I call, hey, are you interested in selling your property? No, we're never selling this property. All right, well, you have a good day. My name's Kevin Mills. If anything, and they already hung up. So it just got way too fast. So I realized I had to ask way more questions if I was going to get anywhere with the conversations. So I had 8 pennies I put on the left side of my desk, and on every phone call, I'd make 8 questions at least. So it was, hey, well, have you given any thoughts on selling? No. Oh, well, where'd you go if you were considering selling? Oh, and what's there? What would lead you to go there? And when you went up there, what kind of property would you be buying? And how soon do you think that could be before you were looking? Oh yeah, well, how long have you lived where you have? What kind of upgrades have you done? I mean, I would just go through these lists of questions, and sometimes I'd just be cracking myself up because I mean, it would just go on forever. I feel like I wasn't saying anything.
What color shirt are you wearing?
Yeah. I mean, I had to think of 8 questions. I was committed to that. So for me, it led me to be able to build a really good database from cold calling, because those conversations lasted 3 minutes when they wanted to get off after the first question. Most people, if the answer is no, they'll say, oh, okay, well, listen, I don't want to disturb you. I was just touching base around the neighborhood. And hey, if something changes, can I get your email, or can I send you something, or can I text you, or save me in your phone? That's kind of the end of it after the first no, the first question. You go 6, 7, 8 questions deep, you're really able to get some good information, and maybe it brings out that, hey, I mean, not this year, but next year, or maybe not now, but in 6 months. I mean, I look at my 2022 and even 2023, I already have people in my calendar. I mean, I'll look in December of this year and I have 1 week that's just completely booked with follow-up already. So you start building this database. It's something where I don't go into next week hoping that there's business out there, hoping that more properties come off the market. I already have a solid database that I'm rolling through and following up with. So if nothing new comes off the market, if nobody calls me wanting to list their property, I'm still guaranteed at least 2 to 4 listings a week just off that database follow-up.
Name of the game. Just quick question. I'll go to you first, Kevin, and then Kyle from Janice. And hey, by the way, we've got the 2 number 1 agents in our system here. I'm surprised we don't have a ton more questions, but we'll go to Janice first. So both speakers, what time of day do you make your calls?
So 8 to 11 every single day I'm making calls. And then it's literally every minute I don't have appointments after that, or I'm not doing another business task, that I'm making phone calls during that. But it's 8 to 11 Monday through Friday. It's usually 8 to 10 on Saturday, and it's 4 to 6 on Sunday. I'm blasting calls.
Okay. Kyle, how about you?
So I follow definitely a different model. I don't block time during the day. I pretty much just go 24 hours. I mean, any time I need to make, I have a call list I have to go through, and my only thing is I have to get through it during the day. No matter what time, I have to make sure I get through every phone call or every text message that's on my phone call list for that day. So it could be 100, could be 200, could be 50. It just depends what happens. I have so many incoming calls that it's not as easy to block that time. I'd be playing catch up all day, and it would become almost impossible. Now, that being said, I have a virtual assistant in the Philippines that makes calls for me all day long. So I'm still doing the same thing, just in a different app. I'm not actually doing it myself. I've leveraged that piece of the business. Now, I love getting on the phone, but the highest ROI for me is someone calling me to help them buy or sell. That's what I need to participate in. The stuff where the outgoing calls, I can have a virtual assistant tee that up for me and then get on the phone from there. So just a little different model, but the same premise, right? You have to make the phone calls. You have to get in front of people. And the only way you get in front of people is by putting yourself out there and asking questions and getting yourself known and continuing to fight forward.
You know, I'll say, so Kyle is actually launching a program with Century 21. It's called XROU. It's a 8-week coaching program that he's doing for us. And we did a pilot. By the way, the first one's coming up in April 14th. But we did a pilot back last fall where you shared your schedule, and it really kind of surprised people. But when you do that many transactions as a solo agent, your schedule is very, it may not be that sort of set rope, but it's very purposeful. And I think that was one of the biggest ahas I had, just being a fly on the wall in your coaching pilot. Let me ask you, when you're communicating, so you talked about some of your buckets. Give me some examples. Like you mentioned investors, right? So I know investors are a big part of your business. What is it that you're communicating to your investors that's meaningful to them?
So I am keeping them up to speed on the current market, the valuations. I'm sending them off-market deals every single week, almost every single day. I'm providing value to them, explaining to them what the current cap rate situation looks like in our market. I'm explaining to them how fast multifamilies are selling. I'm explaining to them where the hot areas are for any sort of flip property, and just adding value. Investors want to do one thing. They want to make money. So at the end of the day, if you can help them make money and add value and build credibility and how you can be their go-to guy or gal, that's a huge opportunity for you to continue to get them back and they become repeat clients. So end of the day with the investors, it's video. I do a lot of video to my investor bucket because I can hit 500 investors with one video. I do about one a week. I'll do some audio stuff where it's just the audio clip. I'll do some flyers and mailers and documents just so they can kind of see some numbers, some numerical stuff, but really staying in front of that lead source, because not only can investors become repeat clients on buying and selling and flipping and holding, they also know other people. And people that invest, think about it, they're looked at in their community as that real estate expert. So when someone is looked at as a real estate expert, they become a walking billboard for me. Because who are their friends, family, and relatives going to go to when they have any questions regarding real estate? They're going to go to that investor. So it becomes a gift that keeps on giving and is super valuable. And I can't underestimate how much value it's driven for my business in the last 10 years.
Yeah. And I was surprised in your coaching pilot about how you went after the investors and just how easy it was to get in relation. Well, easy, just how systematic it is to be able to get into a relationship with them. I want to switch gears. So Janice asked a follow-up question to you, Kyle. She says, do I understand that you may cold call anytime throughout the day?
So not really. The cold calls are made from my ISAs. The warm calls are made for me. What I mean by that is a cold call is just a random call to one of our lists that we have, right? So my VA or my ISA will get on the phone and tee that up. Once they make contact and get a certain level of engagement, it will go in my calendar as a follow-up call. Those are the calls that are made throughout the day. So the cold calls, right? So to Kevin's point, yes, he blocks and he time blocks. That works for him. I can sit still for about a minute and a half. After a minute and a half, I'm gonna go do something else. So the problem with that is time blocking doesn't work for me, but I can hire someone to do it and they can get it to a point where I just have a plethora of people that I have to call. So it's a different method to madness.
Yeah. A follow-up question for you, Kyle. Are your investors primarily buying distress or wanting below market properties?
Everything, anything that can. I think I summed it up when I said, and as simplistic as this sounds, it really is. If an investor can make, X amount of dollars on a deal, they're going to move forward. And one thing, I'll give you one little quick nugget and little kind of cheat sheet thing for you here. I don't even think this is in the coaching, but at the end of the day, here's the deal. Investors, right? If you can partner with an investor, right? So if you can partner with an investor on a renovation project, it gives you another listing. it makes you closer to that investor, and it gives you skin in the game on profiting. So it's like a three-legged stool right there, right? So I partner with a lot of my investors, right? I'll get them the hard money. I'll partner with, there's just so many different ways that investors can provide value for our business. So to your point, yes, distressed, yes, abandoned, yes, anything that's below market or anything they can make money on.
Okay, great. And by the way, there's some questions in the Q&A piece. I'm monitoring the chat, so if you guys want to ask your questions in the chat, be faster for you. But Ann and Fernita, I'm going to ask your questions in just a little bit because I think we're going to have some fun with that. Kevin, Janice is asking, what does your day look like after 11 a.m.?
Yeah, so I mean, every day is different. So I mean, usually I might have an appointment in the afternoon. If I don't have an appointment in the afternoon, I'm also like Carl, I'm involved in investing myself. So I'm running a couple different side businesses on the side that I'm just using to build wealth in addition to this. Maybe I have a lot of follow-up calls I have to make. So my follow-up isn't during 8 to 11. 8 to 11 is generating. My follow-up call is more of a servicing activity. So I'll be doing those afterwards. If I need to negotiate any contracts, I'll negotiate contracts during that time frame. But most of it's just spent kind of working on the business. What needs to grow? What needs to be tweaked? What's my assistant doing? Should we be doing something else? Do we need to be hiring anybody else? I mean, there's just a lot that goes into the rest of the day. And if nothing's happening, then I'm back on the phones making phone calls. And that's what happens 95% of the days. I'm making phone calls from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock again. So I'm doing 6 hours of calls a day. So repetition beats talent 100% of the time. So the more repetitious you can be, you're going to beat these people that think that they're ultra talented in your market. That top agent in your market, I guarantee, unless they're just spending a ton of money, they really work themselves to the bone at the start to really build up that database. So you can easily catch them if you just work on your communication. And in my opinion, if you don't have any money or you don't have much money to spend, the most effective way to do that is to do these outbound phone calls.
Yeah, makes me think of
Hi,
Tiger Woods in his garage with his dad. Yeah, Kyle.
I second. I can't agree with that more. You don't need $1. All you need is a cell phone. You don't need $1 to really be successful in this business. If you took every dollar I had and you took every piece of real estate or everything that I had, I have the blueprint to get back to where I got to. And that's the beauty of this real estate game, is that at the end of the day, you don't have to come in with a background in real estate. You don't have to come in with this. I didn't come from a background or a family that was uber wealthy or had wealth like that. You just have to be able to put yourself out there and take no prisoners and not worry about no's and just continue to focus on being the best agent and the best person that you can be in this space. And it sounds cliche, but at the end of the day, there is no limit to this. Like I've made, and I mean, anyone can look this up. It's not like I'm telling anything that's not. Just do the math. 500 transaction sides is a lot of transaction sides. That's a lot of commissions. And at the end of the day, the reality is that's possible. I mean, if you really want it, you can get it. My first job out of college, I made $25,000, and not that that's not a lot of money, but it's a far cry from where we are now. And I think it's a testament of that it's possible. And I'm as hungry today as I was 10 years ago, which is one of the big factors. I have not lost that hunger and desire to be great.
So I'm going to switch gears and I want to talk about talking on the subject of language here. What are the top objections you guys are getting, and how are you handling them today?
Yes, I'll start. So the top objection I'm getting is commission, right? I mean, we're all getting that in a hot market. People are asking us to cut our commission. The second one that I'm getting is we're interviewing other agents. Most people may not say that that's an objection. It's more of a condition, but I can guarantee you it's an objection. The amount of listings that I guarantee Kyle take and I take as well. I mean, when they tell me they're interviewing other agents, it's so easy to overcome that. And you just ask one question at that is well, what do you think they're going to do differently that I'm not going to do? And then whatever they say after that, they say, well, do you think that I'm the agent that can get this sold for you? And then if they say no, you just ask them, well, what else do you need to hear so you're convinced that I'm the agent that you need to go forward with? And then you listen to what they say, and then you answer it, and then you ask them to sign the listing paperwork. and you tell them that you'll call and cancel the appointments or whatever needs to happen. So I think more than anything, it's just overcoming the objections. And obviously maybe Kyle makes it sound easier than it is. And I make it sound easy. It really is easy. You just have to learn these objections. You have to learn the objection handlers, and you kind of got to be relentless on the front side to get the business. I mean, listen, I'm all about being a nice guy. I'm all about being there for my clients. But when I'm in that listing appointment, I'm taking time away from my family, from my business to be there. And my job is to get that listing paperwork signed so I can get a commission, so I can help these people. So when I'm sitting at that table, I mean, they almost have to kick me out to get me to leave without listing paperwork, because I'm there to get it signed. I'm asking the in-depth questions. And more than that, I'm confident that I'm the best agent in our marketplace to get it sold. I'm sure Kyle is as well. So with any objection handler, it's just, especially commission, if you want to focus on that one for a second, it's just showing your value.
Yeah.
So for me, my commission is 6%. And they say, well, there's somebody down the street that'll do it for 5%. And I always say, just remember, cheaper isn't always least expensive. And then I'll let that sink in for a second. Be like, do you understand that? Cheaper is not always least expensive. Because just because they say they're going to do it for cheaper, what if your property doesn't sell for the next 6 months? What does that look like? What happens when they don't hire a professional, come out here and do photos and videos? What happens when they don't communicate on weekends with agents like I'm going to on my end? My commitment is blank. And you dive back into your commitment and why you're worth what you're worth. And 95% of the time, that's good enough for them. But they have to ask. Another thing I would say when they ask about commission, don't automatically think that that's an objection. They're just asking you a question. They're just asking what your commission is. They're not asking you to cut your commission. They're not asking you to compete with another agent over commission. They're just asking you what your commission is. So you answer it, and you don't answer it with a bunch of reasoning behind it. It's 6%. And then you move on to whatever. You let them answer the next question. Chances are they're not even going to ask you or make you dive into why you're worth that, or somebody else will do it for this. It's you when you say, well, it's 6%. And I know that there's some agents out there that'll do this, or whatever you go into that little BS story after you say it. Just answer the question with that answer and move on and act like it didn't even phase you, and you'll get away with it 100% of the time. So that's one thing I hear a lot of agents doing.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Kyle, how about you? What objections are you hearing, and how are you dealing with them?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. The two bigger objections that I'm hearing right now, number one is really not even commission, is really where do I go when I sell? I don't have anywhere to go. And my answer to that is very simple. Look, guys, here's the reality. We can put a clause in there that makes it subject to you finding suitable housing. If we get your property on the market and we get it pending and we have a buyer that's coming through to the table, we now know how much money you're going to take away after you pay all your expenses and your mortgage. So it puts us in a better position now to go ahead and buy something else. You're not guessing. You're not playing the guessing game. Secondly, in this market, when it's super competitive and really competitive on the buy side, we need to make sure that we're coming to the table with an offer that's viable, right? If your house isn't even on the market, if you're not pending, you don't really have any legs to stand on. So at the end of the day, you want to get your house on the market. We want to make sure that we know what we're going to walk away with, so we can do a really good job on the other end and be successful on the buy side. Now, one thing that I took away from what Kevin said and how I operate, there's one word that negates all of your pain points, and one word that can negate all of the things, all of the objections that come up. And that one word is confidence. And the way that you answer anything matters. So to his point, I've had agents, and I've listened to agents when that question comes up regarding commission. Their lack of confidence is so strong that they wouldn't convince anyone to do anything. So at the end of the day, if you come in there with the confidence, been there, done that, this is what it is. You're paying X for this. This is the reason why you want to work with me. I'm going to give you this, 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 and this. It's that confidence, right? At the end of the day, that's going to help you get past those objections. You can have the best script in the world, but if you're not confident saying it, it's a moot point. It doesn't matter. If you're robotic, it doesn't matter. So it's getting a script that you can understand and you know the why behind it. You're not just reading just to read. You're not just talking just to talk. You're talking with a purpose. You're talking with the level of confidence that makes the person on the other end say, oh, okay, this guy's got it, or this girl's got it, or this woman's got it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And somebody was saying I gave my commission away because of lack of confidence. Well, so when you practice your scripts, practice confidence as well. Kyle, any other big objections you're hearing frequently these days?
I mean, a lot of the ones is where do I go? Where do I go after I sell? I mean, that's been the biggest one. Or the commission one comes up here and there, not too much. The one I get a lot of is, how can you possibly fit me in your schedule? Like, because you're so busy. Like, how is that even possible? And I say, listen, here's the reality. I'm busy for a reason. I'm not busy going to the beach. I'm not busy going on vacation. I'm busy because I'm high in demand. I'm high in demand because I'm really good at what I do. And if you find someone who's not busy, I question why you would want to work with someone that no one else wants to work with. You want the best service, you want the best experience, and you want to get the most money, you work with the guy or girl who's busy. If you find someone on the other end, there's a reason they're not busy and there's a reason I am busy. And that's kind of how I handle that.
We used to have a friend who said, if you want something done, give it to a busy person.
That's
all
correct.
Right. That's right. I'm going to dive into some of the questions about your team in just a little bit because we're getting a couple of those. But before I do, what's working for you right now? So, Kevin, in terms of your business, what's working for you right now?
Yeah, I think it's being really aggressive. Being really aggressive is working for me right now. There's a lot of new agents in the business that are taking listings and they're selling the first day on the market, 10,000 over asking price, and they think that they are just hot stuff. It's a product of the market and good for them. I mean, it is what it is, but they get a false confidence that now they're a top agent because they just sold another property 10,000 over asking price. Right now, there's a lot of people whose families getting in the business and they're trusting them with the listing. So for me, it's being ultra aggressive in this market where there's high competition from every forefront. And that's, if you're working buyers, I tell some of the buyers agents in our office the exact same thing. You have to be ultra aggressive. You have to follow up twice as much as you normally would. If somebody tells you to call them next week, you call them the next day. And that might sound funny, but it's the truth. My follow-up, I used to cut it in half, whatever they say. Now I cut it in a fourth. I follow up a fourth faster than or 3/4 faster than I should. So on this side, I think being ultra aggressive is doing it, but also, again, I said it twice already, is stating your value proposition. You need to stick out over every other agent in your market. And how you do that is stating why you're more valuable than any other agent they're going to talk to. So I think if you could do both of those things and just, again, stay highly motivated and highly aggressive, then you're going to get the listing. It's when we relax back on our laurels thinking that we have this listing in the bag, somebody else comes up and just snacks it from us.
Speaking of value, it's kind of putting you on the spot. And Janice asked, if you had 30 seconds to tell the client of your value, what would you say?
Yeah, I think, again, one of the questions I asked leading into that is what's most important about the agent that you go with. So based on what they say is based on what my value proposition is. But I mean, let's just say that they want an agent that's going to communicate well and is going to market their property aggressively, because that's a lot of them right there. So my commitment to you is that first thing is first, I'm going to be in complete communication with you. I'm not going to pass the buck to somebody else, and I'm not just going to throw you away and go on to the next listing when we work together. I'm going to be there to effectively communicate for you. I'm going to make sure I'm following up with agents that are showing the property, making sure the buyers are pre-screened, pre-qualified, have proof of funds. Now I'm communicating regularly with the agents to get good feedback to deliver it to you. And also behind the marketing of the property, I'm going to make sure that we're spending every dollar possible to get you on the top of all the featured listing pages. We're going to reach out to our buyer database to generate buyers for your property. It's just going really in depth for whatever that is. So, I mean, if anybody threw out a reason out there, I'd be able to talk about it for 2 minutes, why it's my value proposition. So I think it's just listening to whatever they say. For some people, I mean, it's something minuscule. Listen, I just want whoever's going to get this sold the fastest. Okay, well, let me tell you what I'm going to do to get it sold the fastest. And so, I mean, you got to understand what game you're playing before you play the game. So many of us would say, okay, well, here's my value proposition, and that person doesn't care a bit about what you just said. They care about something completely different. So it's very critical to understand from the start what's most important to that person, and then base your value proposition around that. That way you're going to connect with them better than any other agent.
Awesome. All right, Kyle, how about you? What's working for you today?
So I missed the question. What was the question?
What's working for you right now?
As far as what? As far as
Generating closing business.
you know what's working for me is that I'm not allowing limitations to get in my mindset and in my mentality, and allowing people to fill my head with the buyers can't get houses. There's no use to work with buyers. It's too hard to get listings. I think there's so many agents out there that all you hear, they're almost getting, so buyers get buyer fatigue, right? Where buyers quit and give up. Agents are starting to get agent fatigue. And I haven't seen that in 10 years, where the agents are getting tired of driving people around, tired of showing houses. And it's really kind of wearing off on the rest of their business. I'm not allowing that to happen. And I think that mentality shift, I'm up really, really big this year on my second competitor in the state. And I think it's been a huge shift of mindset, just saying, hey, look, I'm going to battle through this. I'm going to gobble up as much as I can and take as many buyers or sellers as possible, and continue to have a positive attitude and share that positive attitude with the buyers. Because I think if you start putting buyers if you start giving buyers a reason to quit, not only does it make them quit, it makes them not work with you in the future, because they're going to find someone else who's just kind of a little more happy and a little newer. So that's been a huge piece for success for me this year.
All right, cool. So we're getting a lot of questions about your team. So Kyle, why don't we stick with you? Tell us about the SEBA team, not the brokerage, but the actual agent team behind you. So
my team is unique. There are no other agents. My team is me. I have a driver who's driving right now. As you can see, I'm sitting here. He's driving. I have an admin that handles all my scheduling. I have an admin that answers all my emails. I have an admin that answers all my showing requests and does all my listings. I have 3 transaction coordinators that handle all my deals from contract to closing. I have a bookkeeper that handles all my finances, and then myself that does all the appointments with buyers and sellers. Now, if I am double or triple booked, I have 3 runners. What a runner does, it's a licensed agent that basically opens the doors and fills in for me if I can't be in 2 places at once. So I'm able to leverage all these different factors of a transaction amongst a team of people. So it's one rainmaker and a lot of support. That's the way that I'm set up.
And when you say runners who open the doors, are these kind of showing specialists you call them?
They're just coverage. They could be they're just coverage. They're not showing agents, because they're not going to stick with one buyer and that's who they're working with. They're literally, I'm going to look at my schedule for the day and pick whichever buyer I feel like needs me the most. And that's the appointment I go to. And then I delegate the other ones. Now, my appointments are every half hour on the half hour throughout the day, from 9 in the morning till about 7:30 at night. I'm in an appointment every half hour on that. While we were doing this, I was showing a bed and breakfast for 1.7 million. I had the phone, we were kind of multitasking there. So we were doing a little bit of everything. So that's how tight the schedule is.
Yeah. And by the way, 30-minute listing appointment for a lot of people might sound a little fast, but maybe we can come back and talk a little bit about that. So Kevin, how about you? Can you describe your team?
Yeah. It's me, an assistant, and then we have a virtual assistant that does just data input. She only works 2 days a week now. So, it's basically just me and an assistant. My assistant is licensed, so she's able to have conversations. She does do a good amount of negotiating. She's just a rock star, man. I just found the right person. So she does probably 2 people's jobs. If it wasn't for her, I definitely have 2 assistants. So I just have me and an assistant, and we just grind it out.
And what kind of division of labor was your assistant doing for you?
Everything. It's so hard to break it down. She does, other than generate listings, she literally does the rest. As crazy as that sounds. I know that sounds like the bulk of the business. She does everything. The listing input, scheduling photos, scheduling courier, scheduling signs, lot boxes. She does half of the negotiations at least. From contract to close, I do have a closing coordinator that's provided by the company, so that's something I don't have to have. But so a closing coordinator takes it from there. But she literally, once I get the listing, probably half of my deals, I won't talk to them again until it's closed. She'll facilitate the rest of it. And a lot of people would look at that and say that that's a disservice. My clients love her. If you look at my reviews, or you look at anything on me on that end, they're all raving and all happy because she's there for them the entire transaction.
Great partnership.
Yep.
So somebody was asking, Fernita asked, I'm in the real estate kindergarten, she calls it, a whole 2 months in, advice on where to focus.
Learning the conversation. So, I mean, this is a perfect dialogue for you to be in. It's first learning what to say. And then once you learn what to say, then you have to learn what to say back when you get objections. So how I recommend doing that is once you hear an objection that you stumble and bumble over, write it down and then write down 3 ways that you can handle that, or at least start by 2. So 2 ways that you can handle that one objection. So if it was, well, we're not looking to do anything right now, and you kind of stumbled and bumbled to get off the phone, it's like writing down, okay, next time they say they're not looking to do anything right now, why don't I ask, what would the market have to look like, or what would your situation have to look like, or what does have to happen for this to be something that you would look at doing right now, or if the offer made sense, it's still something you wouldn't consider. I mean, I've done this so much. I got to the point where I wrote 8 handlers for every single objection. And so now I'll just cycle through them. And so you need to get to that point where you know how to have every kind of conversation that's involved in real estate. And I can honestly tell you, once you learn 12, you're done. There's no new ones that are going to come about. So all you have to do is be hyper focused on that communication. And then you just have to have dedication to running this as a business. So many agents fail because they don't run their real estate business as a business. You treat it like a business. You treat it as a job from the beginning where you work a set amount of hours at least. Then you're really able to free up your schedule on the back end by leveraging and seeing what Kyle's doing, because I guarantee you Kyle could take himself out of the business this year if he wanted to. He just is enjoying what he's doing. And one thing that I've learned about a lot of top producers is the reason Kyle can work from 9 to 7 and not burn out, because he's in the task that he loves and enjoys doing. The reason a lot of other people get burned out and they're not even working half the schedule Kyle is because they're in a position where they don't love what they're doing. So just find out the part of the business that you love and enjoy doing, have a passion for it and good at, and then delegate everything else away.
That's the thing. And by the way, don't ever lie to yourself and say that it's too early on in my business to delegate certain things. There's all sorts of ways of delegating without taking on salaries and things like that.
Yeah.
So Kyle, how about you? Advice for Fernita, aside from anything Kevin just shared about where to focus as a new agent in the business?
I don't think I've ever heard anyone sum up how to not burn out as well as he just did, and how to really be successful at anything. Find what you like about it and pour gasoline on it. Everything else, get coverage for once it gets to that point, right? So everything else, once you get to a point where you're busy enough and you can find whatever that is that you don't enjoy to do, pass that off and do more of what you love to do. Now, there's always going to be parts of the business that you don't like, but at the end of the day, that's really, really good advice. If I were talking to a total newbie, I would say, remember one thing, and Kevin may have started different than me. Someone that's been at the top, done 500 plus deals 3 years in a row. My first year, I did 7 deals. You're not going to light the world on fire year one. It takes time, right? It takes time to get to that level. But not only that, don't quit. If you really like it, don't quit. If you don't like it, quit, do something else. It's not the job for you, right? You can make a decent living not having to put yourself through this pressure, working weekends and nights and what have you. But right now, with the proposition and the amount of monetary success you can have, if you love this and you truly enjoy it, you have to battle through the first few years. And if that means that you work another job to give you a steady income and you work around that, I worked full time for 5 years before I got into this. I did 195 transactions or 197 transactions part-time. So to say that it's not possible, that's not true, right? So there's a million ways to skin the cat. And to his point, I could pull myself out tomorrow, but what would I do? I love doing this. Like, why would I my days fly by because I enjoy it. My days don't fly by because I hate it. It's because I like what I do. I'm in a very, very, very fortunate position, and every day I'm thankful. And some days I snap and say, what the heck just happened? How did I get here?
Glenda asked, do you guys take time off?
Kevin?
Yeah, so I mean, I'd take off at least 1 week a quarter. I just joined a mastermind group where now there's a big trip every single quarter I have to go on. So that's in addition to now I got to take 1 week off a quarter with my family and 1 week off with them. So I'll be taking off 2 weeks every 3 months. So yeah, I mean, we definitely take time off. I think and I can't speak for Kyle. Maybe he didn't take any time off, but I would imagine he does. But I'd say on my end, it's just being extremely disciplined when you're at work. And then understanding if you're going to be gone for the week, who's going to do what you need done, and then put them in position to succeed. So that way you're not all stressed out while you're on vacation. I mean, when I'm on vacation, I don't even look at my phone the entire week. I turn it completely off because I have the right people in the right roles to handle everything I need done when I'm gone. So I would say, yeah, I love taking time off. I mean, I love to travel. It's definitely a big passion for me. The one thing I think me and Kyle could both say is we're not handcuffed to this business. So many people, the business runs them. But for both of us, I think if we wanted to take time off, if we wanted to travel, if we wanted to take today off and go to a happy hour with friends, we can do it. We're just going to be disciplined enough to have the structure in place that the business still runs. It doesn't shut off just because we're not there.
Kyle, I know you and I have talked about your time off. You want to share?
Yeah, I mean, it's there. I mean, it exists somewhat. I enjoy what I do. If I want to take time off, I can. That's the reality of it. I went, in the last year, I probably went away on quick trips, 7 or 8 different. I mean, I went to the Super Bowl. I went away 7 or 8 times for like 2 nights. I still work during that time because it's just an addiction that I have to it. I mean, I just love being involved and making sure that everything's taken care of. But time off comes, it comes with time. And if that's what you want to do, then I can do it. It just comes down to what I really, truly want to do. And that's the reality of it. I'm saying you can do that many deals or do it. Go ahead.
I was just going to say too, I know with you in particular, because you and I spend a little bit of time together, your time with your daughters is
that's a different time off. That's different. Yeah. So when I book my schedule, so like I said, every half an hour, I am with my daughters every single day for a good amount of time. They are the first clients that get booked on anything. So every week, if it's soccer, swimming, basketball, softball, I coach every sport. We go and, I'll go watch swimming, soccer for an hour and a half and then go right back out there and get right on the grind. But no matter what, that stuff is 1,000% more important than any client situation that I have. So when you say time off, I think of it 2 different ways. That's different. That's just like they're my number one client. So that's what it comes down to. Outside of them, that's doing things for me. That's something different. But for them, that's 100,000%.
All right. We got time for a couple more questions, and I'm going to let these gentlemen get back to their lives. But Glenda asked, what do you do when you are burned out or coping with work?
For me, I just shut it down. If I feel like I'm getting to any sort of level of burnout, and it usually happens like on a Friday night or a Saturday night, I literally pull a Kevin and just put the phone down. Don't even look at it. And take even like 2-3 hours of not looking at it, I feel refreshed.
Kevin, how about you?
I refocus on what I'm doing that's making me burn out. Chances are if I'm burnt out, it's because I'm doing a lot of stuff I don't want to be doing. So I refocus where my attention is and what tasks I'm doing, because I'm never burnt out when I'm in my element and I'm doing what I love to do and I'm doing what I'm good at doing. I'm burnt out when now I'm answering phone calls I don't typically answer, or answer emails or answering texts. I realize that I make myself burned out because I'm deciding to do things that I shouldn't be doing. So I would take a look at that.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for being on the call today. We really appreciate it. I know how busy you both are, so thanks for giving back to the Century 20 community. We really love that. Guys, if you have other questions, I know Kyle's very active on social media. Kevin, social media as well, they can get at you?
Yeah, whatever's best.
All right, great. And by the way, I mentioned it earlier, be sure to check out Kyle's coaching program. It's going to be April 14th is the kickoff for the first one. And I think somebody put in the chat earlier the link. So if you scroll up into the chat, you can link directly to it. Check it out. And Kyle, by the way, thanks for doing that. We really appreciate it. And great luck to you on that program. I know it's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, no problem. And I think the beauty of the program, Ryan, real quick, is that it's a function of mindset, structure, and a different twist on kind of everything you've ever learned. So I think it's my own personal twist that helped me out, and I think it's going to be good for people of all levels.
I'll give you a testimonial. Somebody who's been in this business for 2 decades actually took something that I learned from your pilot and worked with my real estate agent that I was selling my home, got it sold like that for way over ask, probably way more than I should have gotten. So thank you for that, my friend. All right, you guys. Happy Friday to you both. Thank you both for being here. And thank you all for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We hope that you've enjoyed the session. Be sure to check out Monday Masterminds and the links there in the chat from Mary Beth. Until then, y'all enjoy yourselves. Have a great weekend. Hope you have a great 2020 with your business. Bye, guys. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Kyle.